Welcome to the Cybersecurity Threats for Blockchain Infrastructure panel. I'm Sergiu Vasilescu, and I have the pleasure to be your host for the next 30 minutes. I'm a lawyer focused on the new and emerging technologies, and I will quickly introduce my panel colleagues, and then I'll let them to say a few words about them and their activity. Please meet John Kirch, Vice President, Uppsala Security, Andrei Avadanei, CEO, BitSentinel, Charles Smith, Business Development Manager at Certik Foundation. Unfortunately, we hope to have also with us Jorge Sebastiao, CTO Confidential, which has some connection issues at this moment, and Teemu, Lehtonen, founder of BlockTime Solutions. John, you have the floor, so please tell us a few words about you and your activity.
Sure. First of all, I'd like to say thank you very much for coordinating today's event. I'm with Uppsala Security, and we develop advanced risk management tools for helping organizations to strengthen their capabilities for crypto AML, for transaction tracking and visualization, for regulation compliance, and for cybersecurity, protecting crypto assets as well as other digital assets from hacks, scams, and fraud. It's a pleasure to be with you today. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you too. Andrei, please let us know a few words about you too.
Thank you, Sergiu. Hello, everyone. So my name is Andrei. I started BitSentinel in 2015, which right now can provide you assistance with all the cybersecurity services you might need, such as penetration testing, application code review in the blockchain area, compliance and consultancies for fintech industry and things like this. Moreover, I'm also the founder of DevCamp, which in the last 10 years became the largest cybersecurity conference in Romania and one of the largest in the region. For instance, only last year we had 2,000 people here in Bucharest from around 40 countries. And yeah, we have some experience in the field. We've started helping companies in the blockchain industry since 2017. And in the last few years, we've organized different layers of security for many businesses in this area.
Charles, I think it's your turn.
Sure. Hi, I'm Charles.
I'm very sorry. It was a connection down here to me. I'm very sorry, Andrei.
No worries. No worries.
Okay, we good to go. I think we heard you well, Andres. Yeah, I'm Charles, Business Development Manager at Certik. We getting some lovely echo, but we're a blockchain security firm focused on source code, protocol auditing, and vulnerability assessment, penetration testing. Mostly, we have a research and design side of the team that's building some tools that we'll be putting out into the public, but primarily facing on securing most of the protocols that you see running in the blockchain world today.
Okay, nice. Teemu, please let us know a few words about your activity.
Yeah, hi. I am an information professional and director in a provincial government in Canada, Nova Scotia. And in this public role, my job is to protect information, but also make it available for use and extracting some value. And it's kind of a tension of protecting and making it available. And as a blockchain developer, I'm a freelance. I don't do that for my job. I do that for fun. And I apply my kind of my professional view to this kind of a very different world of blockchain. But I'm also part in discussions of like a government level adoption of blockchains and what's the value proposition and how exactly we should be doing it and so on. So that's my angle here.
Oh, that's cool. A lot of knowledge accumulated here in this panel and diversity of expertise. So nowadays, security is more than a simple measure of protection. It becomes a mandatory thing. and considering its complexity, it's like an independent science almost. I would like to ask Andrei, what are the cybersecurity threats for blockchain technologies in 2020?
Thank you, Sergio. Before answering to this question, I would like to add that I've seen in the last years a better understanding of the security landscape in the blockchain area. If several years ago we were talking about basic issues such as logic bugs in smart contracts and things like this, I've started to see more complex attacks and more complex ways in order to bypass security measures of the companies which are using technologies. And for that, I think I will try to focus on only one idea. I've seen in the last 2 years more focus from the hacker's perspective of trying to find ways to bypass the off-chain, as we like to call the off-chain combination that enables interaction with blockchain technologies. And what I mean here is that companies are starting to using third parties application and APIs and services in order to provide services for the end user, and for that that area is kind of put on a second layer of importance for most businesses. And I think the supply chain vulnerabilities are the most critical aspect right now in the blockchain industry, because all of us are trying to make blockchain safer. We're trying to make sure that new technologies written in these technologies are made better, but we forgot to work with our partners in order to make sure that these are safe as well.
Good, thank you very much. So I think it's useful to have a short summary of the industry. And I'd like to ask John, what has changed in the last few years? Did you notice more attention focused on cybersecurity?
Looking around the landscape, I think that the key changes in the last few years, I'd like to focus on the blockchain technology itself and decentralization, because these two technologies have helped to address two critically important data security issues. Those are the need for systems with data immutability and the need for systems without single points of failure. Another example of change that I'd like to give you is at Uppsala Security. We built the world's first crowdsourced security intelligence platform, powered by the blockchain and decentralization. It currently hosts more than 40 million pieces of security intelligence stored as blacklist and whitelist, covering wallet addresses, social media accounts, URIs, domains, and other types of information. Initially, many people used to think that blockchain transactions were completely anonymous, that they could not be tracked. And this is also a very great change. Now, without doubt, the implementation of effective KYC processes have contributed significantly to making effective transaction tracking possible. Amongst our users, government organizations and corporations, even newspapers, are increasingly interested in tracking blockchain transactions. Hackers are using various measures to counter tracking, like tumbling and mixing and relaying. But now we have tools that we can provide users that can detect and overcome those types of cybersecurity challenges. For example, we have a product called Crypto Analysis Transaction Visualization, CATV for short. It enables our users to automatically and easily create a visual representation of the flow of crypto tokens upstream and downstream of any user-selected wallet. This makes it a lot easier to trace and understand how hackers and scammers are attempting to avoid tracking in their efforts to realize payout of stolen crypto funds. As another example, We just recently signed a cooperative agreement with a top law firm in South Korea aimed at helping victims of fraud and scams to trace and locate their stolen crypto assets. That analysis is now being used to help enable legal representatives in the courts and lawyers to take measures against bad actors and to retrieve those stolen crypto assets. Thus, we can definitely say that several new cybersecurity solutions have become available to users for making the entire ecosystem a whole lot safer than it used to be 2 or 3 years ago. Solutions are available today that are easy to use and effective, so that users who understand the importance and value add of cybersecurity can quickly access and use those new tools to better protect their digital assets.
Looks as though you're muted, Serge. I'm not sure if anyone can.
Sure. Thank you very much for your answer and for noticing that. You almost touched a few things from my next questions, which is about hacking the hackers. So I would like to ask all of you, what are the another most unique techniques in order to fight cyber criminals and target blockchain technologies? Also, I would like to know your advice for startups, considering that cybersecurity may be an expensive area. When is the moment when they must start to pay attention to cybersecurity? At which level on their timeline?
Well, typically in my experience, it's always too late, and we have seen some of that happening. So earlier than you think is the right answer.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. And for startups, it's a big cost. Budget's really important. So the best way is to identify the most critical pieces of your system, spend time understanding what the impact on your community, on your technology is, start there and then work your way out. Create a plan for security from the beginning and move through it in stages, obviously focusing on the most important pieces first.
Yeah, what I can add on this is that what I think and what I would recommend to any company is to understand that no one will be 100% safe, and in that matter, you can what you can do in this case is just make the hack attempt more expensive for the hackers and the criminal organization. So you just can introduce different levels of security to your company, to your assets, to your infrastructure, and maybe the attacker will look at other companies, especially when we are talking about blockchain, we are talking about coins and transactions.
Yeah, my advice would be, like, when you develop, just develop and don't think too much about that. But then please think about like a base level security measures, like your firewalls on, not too much holes, and then like decent level of basic controls in place whenever you get public, even with your demos or anything. But then hire a professional to take a look and walk through all the vulnerabilities and make an assessment. It will pay, and you will earn also in that exercise.
Yeah, I also used to advise my clients that they will pay less at the beginning than later if they take care about their security at the beginning. So
I'd like to say that I think that this is a great question, and based on our experience in terms of building Uppsala security from scratch, we found that security became important before we did our ICO, and today what we would call an IEO. But why is that important? Because at that time you really become a target, and you have to protect all of your systems. Not only the products that you're developing, but your web page and your network and so forth. But it's at that time that security becomes very, very important. So if you're not thinking about it before you do funding, you are too late. Now, I'd also like to take this opportunity to address Sergiu's first question, and that is, what are some of the more unique techniques for fighting cyber criminals that are targeting blockchain and cryptocurrency, if that's okay?
Sure.
The reason why I think this is a great question is that Uppsala Security just recently won the 2020 Asia Pacific Blockchain and Cryptocurrency Security Technology Innovation Award. And we received that from Frost and Sullivan. And the reason why we received that award was because we were innovative in terms of the crowdsourcing of security intelligence that is hosted in our threat intelligence database running on the blockchain, and also leveraging our patent pending machine learning algorithms that are used to assess the risk of user selected crypto wallets to generate a risk score indicating whether that wallet is safe, suspicious, or malicious. Now, as our first product, when we built that crowdsourced threat intelligence platform, you might say, well, why is that platform so important? What is the value add? Well, this platform solves a very critical challenge in the cybersecurity arena, and that is time, elapsed time. As we know, blockchain and crypto applications are available day and night, 7/24. It seems like the people in the crypto world never go to sleep. The security applications that protect those cryptocurrency users need to be up to date, and available in a similar manner. However, according to information published on the internet in 2018, traditional cybersecurity companies on the average take over 8 months to deliver solutions for zero-day attacks to their users. That is, we think, simply way too long. At Uppsala Security, we have security experts working day and night to analyze and validate newly received crowdsourced security intelligence, making best efforts to minimize the time required to share that new security intelligence with our users around the world. Generally, we are able to analyze and validate newly received incident reports in less than 3 man-days and share that security intelligence with our users. Now, why is that important? It translates into significant value add for our users, enabling them to block new security threats and attacks in a much shorter time frame than typically was possible using conventional cybersecurity tools. Therefore, they're able to leverage our up-to-date, readily available security intelligence to better protect their cryptocurrencies and other digital assets. In addition, we have our tool called the Crypto Analysis Risk Assessment, CARA for short. And that's leveraging machine learning to analyze all of a selected wallet's past transactions, generating a risk score indicating whether or not that wallet is malicious, suspicious, or safe. CARA leverages learned behaviors derived by comparing the behavior data pools of malicious wallets with data pools containing validated safe wallets. It operates on an on-demand basis and runs as a batch process that continually analyzes selected crypto addresses, and it can be easily accessed either via a GUI or a RESTful API. All of these innovative solutions combined, using emerging technologies such as artificial intelligence and machine learning, are helping to define new techniques for more effectively fighting cyber criminals who are attacking blockchain applications and stealing crypto assets. Thank you very much.
Okay, that's a very detailed explanation, and you mentioned crypto assets, and maybe cybersecurity is not familiar to all of us. Can you please? It's an open question. Can you please give us some good practices for wallet management to prevent common attacks against consumers?
Well, I can try to answer on that question. From my point of view, I will try to stick to the basics. Always learn to make backups, use strong private keys, maybe learn how to identify a phishing attack, because basically this is one of the most common ways to gain access to wallets in general. There are a lot of things that you can do, but especially I will always try to focus on provide awareness to our users, to our customers, maybe help them understand better how this can be, this type of attacks against them can be mitigated by using simple means. You don't have to, buy hundreds of thousands products in value just to, protect yourself or your wallets from basic attacks. And usually, from what I've learned, most of them are, like more than 80% of the attacks are targeting people, and they try to persuade them in order to share their credentials or maybe make unauthorized transfers of money and things like this.
Okay, Charles, you want to add something?
Yeah, I kind of wanted to, so that's a really great point on top of wallet management, always going back to the fact that the person is the usually the weakest link in any cybersecurity equation. We're always the ones to make the mistake, whether it's something we've built or an action we take later down the road that doesn't fit with best practice. So I appreciate that point of view. One point that I actually wanted to make comes back to what John was talking about in terms of addressing unique cybersecurity measures against unique attacks in the blockchain space. And as we move forward, and I'll try and keep it brief, but so in our experience at Certik, we are working on the code level with a number of protocols in the space, right? New financial tools that are being built. They're unique, they're interesting, they're functional, and they have a purpose, right? But they're always growing in complexity. They're always growing in uniqueness. And so what that does is it opens up a world of what we consider to be vulnerabilities or cybersecurity issues outside of inherent bugs and flaws that you're going to find. So you might be able to build a system, get 100% code coverage on all of your testing, have no problems, no vulnerabilities, no bugs in it. But you've built a system that can inherently be gamed or cheated, or it's flawed in the way that it's done. And so you have a lot of really creative people building really creative tools. So that means that there's another section of really creative people figuring out how to break the game theory. And so a lot of our focus is not just what are some of the traditional cybersecurity measures that we take to move through some of the standard practice that should come from InfoSec, that should come from traditional software development. And now what is that curve that blockchain's put on it? What is the curve that that decentralized financial tool that you're using has brought to us? And trying to think outside the box. And as similar with VAPT, the more time you stare at it, the more time you test, you're going to find smaller and smaller nuances. So I think kind of looking at that uniqueness factor is as unique as your protocol or as your tool or as your DeFi tool gets made, there's also just as a unique attack vector that gets built. And so it's around standard of practice and then thinking outside the box to make sure that you're trying to cover holistically what you've built.
Okay, but do you think that now the crypto entrepreneurs are aware of the crypto security threats? Do you think that they realize how big is this trend of cybersecurity, let's say, bugs?
No. I mean, look at a traditional trader. I mean, it seems like a pretty secure space, right? And it seems like when you make big asset transfers, everything should go right. If you asked your average trader in the stock market what goes on under the hood, they're not going to have much of an idea. Some of the more advanced ones, some of the guys who are actually involved on the IT side are going to understand, but much less do crypto entrepreneurs understand the inner workings of these systems, right? And so that's a big part of the security. That's a big part of having different platforms that are represented in this group here today. That's a big part of having those code reviews done in place. So people who are on the lay side of security and IT can say, hey, it looks really awesome. It looks really cool. And I want to use it because I'm super into leverage trading. How do I know that it's not broken or it's not going to hurt me? You can have reports. You can have a platform. You can have a security stamp on the side of it that says, hey, it's not your responsibility to know what's under the hood, but it's your responsibility to trust a number of one of the brands in this room today to kind of hold your hand through the process.
Thank you. It's also an open question, and if you have something to add on this topic, feel free. You have diversity of projects in your portfolio, so we want to know your opinion.
What I can say on top of that is that from my point of view, people are not used to get hacked, and they think that it won't happen to them, and this is quite easy in the blockchain industry, because if we look behind, basically we had banks in the past to take care of our assets, of our money and things like this. Right now you have a wallet, so you are responsible to take care of the security of that wallet, of the way you interact with other applications and things like this. And somehow this is not fully understood by the users, and I think this is one of the main reasons that you see many type of breaches at an user level. And yeah, from that point of view, I'm looking also at risks that may arise when companies want to get in the field, but they don't have any previous experience, and probably we will start looking at new DAO-like attacks, for instance, just because they don't have a real experience in the field. And another thing I would like to mention is that don't just make preventive measures for your business. Learn how to prepare for the incident and for a breach. It's very important to know how to react if a situation like that occurs. It's very important to know how who to call in the first place when an incident happens, and what can be done in order to contain the event, reduce the impact of that incident and things like this.
Okay, thank you very much. We have, I think, time only for one question. I have the pleasure to have the support of my clients in case of an attack, or if I want to choose a private blockchain. But in the last few years, we saw an increase in the number of private blockchains. Even that they are supported by large enterprises or even governments. But how can we pick, or how can we trust a new board in this area?
Can you enable my screen sharing? I prepared something just this morning, just a very simple slide. If not, I can still speak about that. I think it's about the tension of trustlessness and efficiency. Like, you can easily build very robust, efficient systems, but they are not trustless any longer. So people need to trust your project and organization or your government and so on. And then it becomes a traditional game of building distrust by your brand and your cybersecurity and your legal framework and compliance and identity management and so on. And it won't be very much a blockchain thing any longer after that. And that's kind of my question, how you maintain this foundational ideal of trustlessness while you build trust in your technology and solution without needing to enter into the old game of building a brand and company and everything that's enabled. And that's an interesting one. And that's, in some sense, in a conflict with how governments think, because they think they are responsible and they need to protect and they need to maintain identity and so on. So it's a really narrow space where you can actually find some value in blockchain that's really not to be found in some more traditional solutions. But if you go into that game, you need to take care of everything we just covered here. On the other hand, the ideal of blockchain is some kind of anonymity, and everyone gets to play. And the bad thing is, like, it attracts all kinds of scammers and bad actors. And it's a really kind of a wild west, as we know. And that's where entrepreneurs need to be very much aware of. It's not only a cool idea and user experience, there's way more involved. and that's why it's so exciting.
Okay, thank you very much. Unfortunately, we don't have more time. Thank you very much, John, Andrei, Charles, and Teemu. It was my pleasure to host this panel. Thank you for your knowledge, and I'm sure this is for the audience. I'm sure that if you want to know more, they are available for you. So contact them in private on LinkedIn. See you next time.
Thank you. Bye bye.
Everybody.